In the 1980s, combining horror with comedy was a common theme in movies. From Gremlins to Reanimator and Return of the Living Dead to Evil Dead 2. The age of sets marked neither the start nor the end of this trend, but it was something of a boom period for flicks mixing laughs and screams. The rise of the video store during this period helped to make horror comedies, as well as nearly every other kind of movie imaginable, accessible to the widest audience possible. It was in this environment that Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz of Troma unleashed the Toxic Avenger on an unexpected public. Lloyd and Michael, both Yale alumni, started Troma Entertainment out of New York City in 1974 but had a slow time establishing themselves. They distributed and/or produced horror films like Blood-Sucking Freaks and sexy comedies like Street Play and The First Turn-On, but it wasn't until the release of the Toxic Avenger in the mid-80s that Troma became the studio we all know today, and its hero, Toxie, became a worldwide icon. But Toxie wasn't created in a vacuum. The movie's story and themes had multiple inspirations both from Kaufman and Herz's own lives as well as the world at large. The environmental subtext in Toxie, which was not quite a mainstream concern yet at the time, was inspired by Lloyd noticing countless non-biodegradable McDonald's styrofoam boxes littering the American road landscape in 1982. Additionally, he read a chilling article about South American children playing with pitchy dust, which was really irradiated byproducts of X-ray machines in a local dump and ultimately dying. Similarly, Lloyd's own wife Patricia Srini Kaufman played with DDT clouds as a child and was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1993, but fortunately survived and is now the head of the New York State Film Commission. Like many others in the 1960s, Lloyd was a fan of the Marvel Comics superhero created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko. Marvel's shared universe of characters with dilemmas both ordinary and extraordinary would not only influence the world of Tromaville, but Lloyd also formed a long-time friendship with Stan the Man himself. In 1971, Lloyd and Stan wrote the script for an unproduced film called Night of the Ritz. It centered around a witch who only killed bad people. Ever since Lloyd served as pre-production supervisor on Rocky, Michael Herz and he had wanted to make the film set in a health club. Then, one fateful day at Troma headquarters in the early 1980s, Michael showed Lloyd an issue of Weekly Variety with the headline, "The horror film is dead." They both laughed at the very thought that such a popular genre, nearly as old as the medium of film itself, had gone extinct. And so, the Troma duo decided to say screw you to industry trends and make a horror movie. Thus, the film, then called Health Club Horror, was put into development. But Lloyd and the Troma team had a hard time making the film's story work. The film was going to involve a hideous monster lurking around a health club. Like the witch in Night of the Witch, the monster would only kill bad people, differentiating itself from the likes of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. But the monster itself was also bad, so why would viewers care about the film's story and characters? Then, at the Cannes Film Festival in 1983, Lloyd had a brilliant epiphany. Rather than a straightforward horror movie, Health Club Horror would instead be a comedy and its monster would be the hero of the story. The notion of a misguided monster protagonist had its roots in the 1931 Universal film interpretation of Frankenstein's monster and Marvel Comics staples like the Hulk and Ben Grimm aka The Thing. Lloyd's concerns over pollution led to radioactive rage factoring in the character's origin. Although nuclear energy can power the world, it also creates ugliness and danger. Toxie's ability to sense evil via radioactive chromatons can be compared to not only Night of the Witch, but also Spider-Man's famous Spidey sense. Alas, when Troma held an early screening of the Toxic Avenger shortly after completing its final edit in May 1984, the audience, even friends and fans of the Troma team, were utterly appalled. But in April of 1986, the New York-based Bleecker Street Cinema began midnight screenings of the film, and it soon gained a following. Vestron Video, one of the Beatich home video distributors of the era, released the film on VHS and Laserdisc, and Shochi 2 gave Toxie a healthy theatrical release in Japan. Toxie became Troma's Mickey Mouse and gained worldwide recognition. The origin of Toxie as presented in the film is something of a warped take on the typical superhero backstory. Melvin Ferd, played by Mark Tordo, a wimpy dork, works as a mop boy at the Tromaville Health Club. No one respects Melvin, especially not the bullies Bozo, played by Gary Snyder, Slud, played by Robert Pritchard, Wanda, played by Jennifer Baptiste, and Julie, played by Cindy Mannion. One fateful day, Julie tricks Melvin into kissing a sheep while wearing a pink tutu. Everyone at the health club witnesses this humiliating prank and laughs at Melvin. Melvin is chased around the club until he falls out of a window. Little did Melvin know that a freight crate full of toxic race drums was waiting on the side of the road below, since its drivers took a pit stop to do drugs. An impromptu dive into toxic goo turns Melvin into a hideously deformed creature with superhuman size and strength, played by Mitch Tone with the voice of Tenant Tesler. Although the now mutated Melvin is initially shunned by his mother, played by Sarah Bell Levinson, he makes trick work of local criminals, becoming known to the good people of Tromaville as the Monster Hero. He even falls in love with a blind woman named Sarah, played by Andre Miranda. However, the town's mayor, Belgurdy, played by Pat Ryan Jr., who has been secretly funding the criminal element, wants Toxie to be taken out. While protecting the little people, Toxie also finds time to seek revenge on Bozo and his gang, who not only harassed him when he was Melvin, but have also killed innocent bystanders in a hit-and-run driving game. Yet, when Toxie kills a seemingly innocent old lady played by Norma Pratt, he worries about losing control. The mayor discovers that said lady was actually a criminal mastermind, but he suppresses this information to get the National Guard to go after Toxie. Toxie and Sarah vacate into the nearby woods, yet are soon discovered. This leads to a standoff between Toxie and Mayor Belgurdy, with all the people of Tromaville wanting the monster hero spared. Belgurdy's weapons have no effect on Toxie, who then disembowels the evil mayor. Thus, the Toxic Avenger had rid Tromaville of crime, corruption, and temptation, but his career as a superhero has only begun. The film mixes gore, romance, satire, and action to create a cinematic hero unlike any other. There is a lot of dark humor, mostly involving Bozo and company and the other villains of the film. Yet, the romantic scenes between Toxie and Sarah, as well as moments where the Tromaville citizens root for the monster hero, are surprisingly heartfelt. Most of the film's characters look and act like they came from Mad Magazine, with the right amount of ridiculousness to entice viewers. The first Toxic Avenger film has an interesting place in horror comedy history. It was made after George Romero's Dawn of the Dead showed moviegoers that gore could be funny, but just before Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Peter Jackson's Bad Taste cemented the notion of splatter slapstick, or splatstick. Small wonder, then, that filmmakers like Jackson, Sam Raimi, and many others have cited Toxie and Troma as major influences. With Toxie becoming a household name among horror fans, it came as no surprise when Kaufman and Herz announced a sequel. The Japanese firm Dada Communications helped produce it, and thus a large section was set and filmed on location in Tokyo. But the first cut of Toxie 2 was over 4 hours long. This necessitated it being split up into two separate films, the Toxic Avenger Part 2 and the Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie. Neither sequel truly satisfied fans of the first film, especially since they were deliberately let go in a vain attempt to appease the MPAA ratings board, and they had the bad luck of being released as the horror boom of the 1980s died down. Somewhat more successful was the Toxic Crusaders, a kid-friendly animated TV series based on Toxie's exploits. Produced by Fred Wolf, the same person behind the 1987 to 1996 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, the Toxic Crusaders series spawned a line of action figures by Playmates, toys, video games, and other assorted merchandise. While nowhere near the blockbuster success of Ninja Turtles, Toxic Crusaders brought in a nice sum of profits for Troma. At the same time, Lloyd's friendship with Stan Lee resulted in Marvel briefly publishing comic books based on both the original live-action Toxic Avenger movies, minus the head-crushing and politically incorrect humor, not surprisingly, and the Toxic Crusaders. Eventually, Troma decides to go back to the rail with Citizen Toxie, the Toxic Avenger Part 4, released in 2001. Citizen Toxie was in part inspired by fans requesting to see Toxie fight Troma's other, equally bizarre superhero, Sergeant Tabuti Man NYPD. Since Toxie and Tabuti Man are both good guys, Lloyd came up with a scenario in which Toxie switches places with the Toxic Avenger, aka Nazi, his villainous counterpart from an alternate universe. Thus, Toxie battles an evil Tabuti Man in the alternate universe's Amortville, while back in Tromaville, Sergeant Tabuti Man NYPD leads a team of heroes against Nazi. Citizen Toxie also touched on such relevant topics as school shootings, plastic surgery, and abortion, all the while amping up the amount of gore and edgy humor to levels beyond what was seen in the first film. The resulting film was a fan favorite, and Troma had long promised a fifth film, The Toxic Trends. While Toxic Trends had spent a development in production limbo, a Toxic Avenger reboot was recently announced to be produced by Legendary Pictures, the makers of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, Pacific Rim, and the Monsterverse, in association with Troma. Yet, perhaps the most well-received Toxie spin-off is the Toxic Avenger musical, written by Joe DiPietro and Bon Jovi's David Bryan. It has been performed internationally since 2008 and was awarded the Outer Critics Circle Award for Best New Off-Broadway Musical of 2009. What else can be said about the Toxic Avenger? It helped to open the doors for what became the slapstick subgenre and put Troma Entertainment on the map. The Toxic Avenger succeeds as being a funny film. It is very silly and gory, yet it still manages to say something about life, love, and society. Kaufman and Herz's honest feelings on 1980s America are laid bare on celluloid for all to see here. Toxie has been described as the best comic book movie not based on a comic book, and it's easy to see why. The film's grungy aesthetic and blend of genres inspired not just future Troma productions like Class of Nukem High and Terra Firma, but its DNA can be seen in multimedia properties like Ninja Turtles and even Rick and Morty. So in conclusion, mutants, monsters, and mayhem have dominated much of our popular culture in recent decades, and Toxie is an important figure in this tradition.